Welcome back, dreamer. Tonight, we slip into a different kind of darkness. Not the cold embrace of the void, but something warmer, something alive with possibility and the quiet thrill of forbidden gain. Tonight, we walk the path where lockpicks are prayers and stolen gold is sacrament, where honor exists among the dishonorable, and where the shadows themselves seem to conspire in your favor. Tonight, we speak of the Thieves Guild. Close your eyes and imagine the weight of a lockpick between your fingers, delicate as a lover's touch, the sound of tumblers falling into place, that soft click that means success, that means survival. The moment you slip through a merchant's window, moonlight painting silver across polished floors, and you absolutely know that everything in this room now belongs to you. Not because you own it, because you've earned it. The Thieves Guild is not what you think it is. It's not a collection of cut purses and brigands scratching survival from the gutters. No, it's something far older, far more elegant. It's an institution that has shaped the criminal underworld of Tamriel for centuries, spreading like whispered secrets from province to province, adapting to every culture it touches while maintaining a core identity that transcends borders and bloodlines. This is a guild that is stolen from Daedric princes, a guild whose leaders have been erased from history itself, existing only as legends whispered in taverns. A guild that counts among its members a granddaughter of queens, master thieves who became guild masters, and shadows so deep even death couldn't hold them. This is an organization that doesn't just survive in the cracks of society. It thrives there. It defines those cracks. It makes them profitable. From the sun-baked streets of a bar's landing in Hammerfell to the snow-wrapped alleys of Riften in Skyrim, from the political intrigues of the Imperial City to the ash-choked corners of Vardenfell, the Thieves Guild has left its mark, sometimes literally. Small carved symbols on door frames and walls, a secret language known only to those who have sworn the oath. Shadow marks, they're called. A diamond means the guild is nearby. A circle with horizontal lines means loot. An X means danger. Empty means move along. There's nothing here worth your time. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we? Before we can understand what the guild has become, we must understand where it began. Every empire has a birthplace. Every legend has an origin. And for the Thieves Guild, that origin lies in a place most of Tamriel had forgotten, on a peninsula so barren that even the desert seems ashamed of it. Let me take you there now. Let me show you how organized crime became an art form, how thieves became legends, and how the shadows learned to smile. Chapter 1. The Birth of Shadows. Arba's Landing. The Second Era was a time of chaos. The interregnum, they called it, that lawless span of centuries between the fall of the Second Empire and the rise of the Third, when Tamriel fractured into 1,000 warring pieces and no one could quite remember what order looked like anymore. It was a time when ambitious men carved kingdoms from the ruins of old ones, when the strong preyed on the weak, and when those clever enough to work in the spaces between found opportunities that would never come again. In southern Hammerfell, on the barren, inhospitable peninsula known as Hugh's Bane, there sat a city that shouldn't have existed. Arba's Landing, a bustling seaport, an oasis of civilization in a backwater so remote that maps often forgot to include it. The city had been colonized by the first wave of Red Guards fleeing the doomed continent of Yokuda, and they had clung to this hostile land with the stubbornness that defines their people. Arba's Landing was a merchant city, not a warrior city, not a magical city, a merchant city. The kind of place where gold talked louder than steel, where the merchant lords controlled everything from the docks to the warehouses to the very laws that governed daily life. They were magnates who fancied themselves nobles, pirates who fancied themselves respectable, traders who would buy and sell anything to anyone as long as the coin was good. And where there are merchants, there are thieves. But these weren't your common cut purses and pickpockets. These were professional operators, men and women who understood that theft was a craft, a skill that required training and discipline and organization. They understood something that street thugs never grasped, that there was more profit in cooperation than competition, that a lone thief might steal a purse, but an organized guild could steal a fortune. The exact date is lost to history, but sometime before the year 549 of the Second Era, someone in Arba's Landing had an idea, a revolutionary idea. What if thieves stopped fighting each other and started working together? What if they established rules, created structure, provided mutual protection and support? What if they could negotiate with the merchant lords, not as beggars or criminals, but as equals, as another business in a city built on business? The original Thieves Guild was founded on this principle. It wasn't about honor among thieves. Not really. It was about profit, about efficiency, about creating a sustainable criminal enterprise that could outlast any individual member. The merchant lords of Arba's Landing, pragmatic to their core, understood the mathematics. An organized thieves guild that followed rules was infinitely preferable to random, uncontrolled criminality. Better to deal with one organization that could be reasoned with, that would keep the streets relatively safe, that would maintain order in the underworld, than to face 100 desperate individuals. And so, an arrangement was made. The Thieves Guild would operate in Arba's Landing. They would pay fees to the merchant lords, a sort of unofficial taxation. In return, the merchants would look the other way at certain activities, would provide information about shipments and warehouses, would even hire the guild for particular jobs. It was corruption, yes, but it was ordered corruption, civilized corruption. The guild attracted the best, master planners who could case a location for weeks before making a move, lock breakers who could open mechanisms that had never been designed to open, climbers who could scale walls that seemed impossible, forgers who could create documents so perfect that even the original authors couldn't tell the difference, and fencers, of course, merchants who specialized in moving stolen goods, who could take a priceless relic lifted from a noble's vault and turn it into clean gold within days. But as successful as this original guild was, it faced challenges. The problem with any organization is that it requires leadership, and leadership can be corrupted. Around the year 556 of the Second Era, a man known as Bright Ilmond seized control of the guild. He was not a good leader. Under Ilmond's stewardship, the guild became everything it had been designed to avoid. He extorted common citizens for protection money. He accepted whatever scraps the merchant lords threw him instead of negotiating as an equal. He couldn't plan a proper heist if his life depended on it. The guild hemorrhaged members. The best thieves left, seeking opportunities elsewhere, or simply going independent. The reputation that had taken years to build crumbled in seasons. Abba's Landing's Thieves Guild became a joke, a shadow of what it had been, and Bright Ilmond was too stubborn or too stupid to see what he had done. Then Nicholas arrived. Nicholas was everything Ilmond wasn't. A master thief from origins unknown, he possessed the rare combination of technical skill and strategic vision that makes legends. When Ilmond died mysteriously around 556 of the Second Era, Nicola didn't just take over the guild. He transformed it, rebuilt it from the foundation up. Nicholas established 3 rules, 3 simple, elegant rules that would define Thieves Guild philosophy for centuries to come. Rules that would spread across Tamriel as the guild expanded, adopted by every branch and every guild master who followed. First, never steal from another member of the guild. Simple, logical. If thieves couldn't trust each other, there was no point in having a guild at all. Second, never kill on the job. The guild wasn't the dark brotherhood. Murder drew attention, created vendettas, turned theft into something uglier. Animals and monsters could be killed if necessary, but people? No. Theft was a business. Murder was a complication. Third, the guild protects the poor. This was the genius one, the rule that made everything else possible. By refusing to prey on beggars and peasants, by actively protecting them from other criminals, the guild earned something priceless: public support. The common folk of Abba's Landing began to see the Thieves Guild not as parasites, but as, well, not heroes exactly, but perhaps necessary evils, the kind of criminals you could live with. Under Nicholas, the guild flourished. They planned elaborate heists that became legends. They played the merchant lords against each other with such subtlety that the merchants never quite realized they were being manipulated. They established a network of contacts, fences, and safe houses that made Abba's Landing the most profitable criminal territory in southern Hammerfell. Nicola didn't work alone. He assembled an inner council, the best of the best. There was Zira, his protégée, a young woman with natural talent and a mind for strategy. There was Edda, whose skills in infiltration were unmatched. There was Daldur, a veteran thief who'd been with the guild since before Ilmond's time. Together, they made the Thieves Guild of Abba's Landing the most sophisticated criminal organization Tamriel had ever seen. But even legends make mistakes. Even the best plans can fail, and sometimes the price of failure is measured in blood and betrayal and the shattering of everything you've built. In the year 582 of the Second Era, Nicholas planned his masterwork, the ultimate heist. There was a Magnifica named Felora, a noblewoman of immense wealth who kept her dowry in a sealed tomb near the city of Tanith. Not just any tomb, the Aldenobia tomb, ancient and filled with traps designed by the greatest Yokudan architects. The dowry itself was said to be worth a fortune, enough to set up the guild for years. Nicholas took his inner council: Zira, Edda, Daldur. The 4 of them would infiltrate the tomb, bypass the traps, claim the dowry, and disappear like shadows at dawn. It should have been perfect. Nicholas had planned it for months, studied the tomb's layout, prepared for every contingency. They never found the dowry. Instead, they found something worse: traps within traps, ancient mechanisms that responded to their presence with lethal precision. In the chaos and darkness of that cursed tomb, things went wrong in ways that planning couldn't prevent. Zira watched her companions die. Edda and Daldur fell to the tomb's defenses, their screams echoing in stone corridors. Nicholas himself was caught, trapped by mechanisms he hadn't anticipated. Zera fought to save them, released a panel that controlled the tomb's defenses, tried to hold back the darkness long enough for her mentor to escape. The darkness won. It always does in places like that. Zera barely escaped the Aldanobia tomb alive. Wounded, traumatized, she crawled from that place of death into the desert sun. By the time she recovered enough to return to Abba's landing, it was too late. Magnifica Flora had discovered who was responsible for the tomb break-in, and she had hired the Iron Wheel. The Iron Wheel. Professional mercenaries, bounty hunters, investigators. The kind of people you hired when you wanted criminals not just caught, but destroyed. Led by Chief Inspector Runbig, they descended on Abba's landing with single-minded purpose: eliminate the Thieves Guild completely. Zera returned to find her guild shattered. Members arrested, others fled, the safe houses raided, the carefully constructed network torn apart. She was the last surviving member of Nicholas's inner council, which meant, by the old traditions, she was now Guildmaster of nothing, Guildmaster of ruins and memories. But Zera was Nicholas's student. She understood what he had built and why it mattered, and she understood something else. The Iron Wheel was hunting a dowry that the guild didn't have, which meant someone else had stolen it from the tomb, which meant there was a mystery here, and mysteries could be weapons if wielded correctly. She went underground, rebuilt slowly, carefully, found new members, veterans like Walk Softly, and young talents like Quen. Established a new headquarters in a place even the Iron Wheel couldn't find easily: the Thieves' Den, a secret base accessed through the flooded districts of Abba's Landing. And she waited, planned, prepared. The full story of Zera's war with the Iron Wheel is a tale of deception and revelation, of old betrayals and new alliances. There was Velsa, a retired member of the Inner Council who Zera suspected of selling them out. There was Silverclaw, a merchant with connections that proved invaluable. There was Kosh, a merchant lord with ambitions that threatened the guild's very existence. And through it all, there was the mystery of the dowry, the truth about what happened in that tomb, and the question of whether the guild could survive long enough to see justice done. In the end, with the help of a newcomer called the Vestige, Zera succeeded. The Iron Wheel was driven out. Magnifica Flora's dowry was recovered. The truth about the tomb was revealed, and the Thieves Guild of Abba's Landing stood once more, scarred but unbroken. But by then, the guild was no longer just a local organization. Nicholas's 3 rules had spread. His vision of organized, professional thievery had taken root in other cities, other provinces. The Thieves Guild had become something larger than Abba's Landing could contain. It had become an institution that would shape criminal enterprises across all of Tamriel for centuries to come. The birth of the Thieves Guild in Abba's Landing was the birth of an idea that thieves could be professionals, that crime could be civilized, that honor could exist even among those who lived by breaking laws. It was an idea that would be tested again and again as the guild spread across Tamriel, adapting to new cultures and new challenges. And nowhere would those challenges be greater than in the centuries that followed, as the guild moved into the heart of the empire itself. Chapter 2. The Iliac Bay. Sophistication and power leap. Forward with me now. Centuries pass like pages turning. The second era ends. The third era begins with Tiber Septim's conquest, the forging of the Third Empire, and the establishment of an order that will last for hundreds of years. We find ourselves in the late Third Era, specifically around the year 400 and beyond. The place is the Iliac Bay, that contested region where High Rock and Hammerfell meet in a complex web of kingdoms, city-states, and political intrigue. Here, the Thieves Guild has evolved into something magnificent. The Iliac Bay's Thieves Guild in the late Third Era was arguably the organization at its peak of power and sophistication. This wasn't the struggling guild of Abar's Landing or the embattled organization of Vardenfell. This was a criminal empire operating with the efficiency of a legitimate business and the reach of a government agency. Guild halls scattered throughout the land, not hidden safe houses or secret dens, but actual guild halls as permanent and recognized as any other guild facility. The Thieves Guild here didn't hide in shadows. They owned the shadows. They were powerful enough that local authorities had to acknowledge their existence, tolerate their operations, and sometimes even negotiate with them. The structure was hierarchical, professional, and remarkably sophisticated. At the bottom were the newcomers, the initiates who had to prove their worth through a series of increasingly difficult tasks. Pick enough pockets, break into enough buildings, and you might receive an anonymous letter inviting you to join. The letter would offer a test, usually stealing some specific item from a location that would require both skill and courage. Pass the test, and you were in. Once a member, advancement came through demonstrated competence, complete jobs assigned by your superiors, sell enough stolen goods to the guild's fences, build your reputation, move up through the ranks from pickpocket to footpad, to prowler to bandit and beyond, each rank bringing new privileges and responsibilities. The fences were crucial to the operation. These were merchants who specialized in moving stolen goods, who had contacts throughout the bay, who could take a priceless artifact and transform it into clean gold within days. The guild maintained a network of fences across the region, each carefully vetted, each operating with the full protection of the organization. But the real genius of the Iliac Bay Thieves Guild was political. They understood something that criminal organizations in other regions hadn't quite grasped: the value of having nobles in your pocket, not through intimidation or blackmail necessarily, but through mutually beneficial arrangements. A noble might need something stolen from a rival. The guild could provide that service. In return, the noble provided protection, information, and most importantly, legitimacy. King Gortwalk Gronagorm of Orsinium, for example, purchased a letter from the Thieves Guild that Emperor Uriel Septim VII had written to Queen Minizera. The guild had stolen it from Queen Aubki. This wasn't just theft. This was the guild operating as a power broker, as a player in the great game of politics. Lady Doriana Flight of Anticlair was especially involved with the local Thieves Guild. The exact nature of her involvement remains somewhat mysterious, but rumors suggested everything from simple financial backing to active participation in guild operations. A noblewoman who was also a thief. In the Iliac Bay, such things were not only possible but profitable. The guild fought to maintain its reputation as the best thieves in the empire. This meant taking out competition, ruthlessly and efficiently. The Wharf Rats, a rival criminal organization that tried to establish itself in the bay, learned this lesson the hard way. The Thieves Guild didn't just eliminate them. They absorbed the useful members and destroyed the rest so thoroughly that within a generation, no one remembered the wharf rats had ever existed. The expansion of activities was another mark of sophistication. The Iliac Bay Thieves Guild didn't limit itself to simple theft. They offered a full range of services: procurement of rare items, information gathering, delivery of messages that needed to remain secret, protection services, and even assassination when absolutely necessary, though such jobs were usually subcontracted to other organizations. In many ways, the Iliac Bay Thieves Guild had become what Nicholas had dreamed of in Abar's Landing, a criminal organization so powerful, so well organized, and so useful that society couldn't function properly without it. The authorities might publicly condemn the guild, but privately they relied on it to keep other criminals in check. The guild's 3 rules meant they were predictable, controllable, manageable. Better the thief you know than the murderer you don't. This golden age of the Thieves Guild in the Iliac Bay would last for decades. Members lived well, died old, relatively speaking, and passed on their skills to the next generation. The organization seemed unshakable, eternal, a permanent fixture of criminal life in the region. But Tamriel has a way of humbling even the mightiest institutions. And in other provinces, in other places, the Thieves Guild faced challenges that would test whether Nicholas's vision could survive contact with cultures that had very different ideas about crime, honor, and who deserved to profit from theft. Chapter 3: Vardenfell, the Gentleman and the Camonatong. Now we turn eastward to the volcanic island of Vardenfell in the province of Morrowind. The late Third Era again, the same period as the Iliac Bay's Golden Age. But here, everything is different. The Dunmer are not like other races. Their society is ancient, hierarchical, xenophobic, and deeply traditional. They have their own criminal organizations, their own codes, their own ways of doing things, and they do not take kindly to foreigners trying to establish themselves on their territory. Enter Gentleman Jim Stacy. Jim was a Red Guard, which already made him an outsider in Dunmer society, a foreigner, a noir, as they called anyone who wasn't one of them. But Jim was also a master thief, a strategist, and a man with a vision. He had come to Vardenfell with a purpose: to establish a branch of the Thieves Guild in Vivec City, the great city of cantons built by the tribunal themselves. The challenges he faced were immense. Morrowind already had a dominant criminal organization, the Camonatong. This was no simple thieves guild. The Camonatong was a crime syndicate with deep roots in House Hlalu, one of the great houses of Morrowind. They dealt in everything: smuggling, assassination, drug trafficking, slavery, extortion, racketeering. They had connections that reached into the highest levels of Dunmer society, and they had absolutely no intention of sharing their territory with an outlander thieves guild. The Camonatong's methods were brutal and effective. While the Thieves Guild followed rules, the Camonatong had no such restrictions. They killed without hesitation. They terrorized their enemies. They made examples of anyone who challenged them. They were, in every sense, everything the Thieves Guild was designed not to be. But they were also deeply embedded in Morrowind's political structure. Orvus Dren, the kingpin of the Camonatong, was also a Hlalu councillor, one of the most powerful political figures in the province. His brother, Duke Vedamdren, was even more powerful, effectively ruling the entire island. The web of connections, bribes, blackmail, and blood oaths that held the Commoner Tong together had been woven over centuries. Breaking that web would be nearly impossible. Jim understood that direct confrontation would be suicidal. The Thieves Guild on Vardenfell was tiny, a fledgling organization with few members and fewer resources. The Commoner Tong could crush them with a word. So Jim did something clever. He didn't try to beat the Commoner Tong at their own game. He changed the game entirely. He resurrected the Baal Molagma. The Baal Molagma were legendary in Dunmer culture. Stonefire in the Dunmer language. They were thieves of honor from earlier ages who stole from the corrupt and gave to the poor. Robin Hood figures who had become folk heroes in Dunmer mythology. The Baal Molagma had supposedly vanished early in the Third Era, but their memory remained powerful. Jim recreated them, or rather, he used the Thieves Guild to impersonate them. He assigned special missions to his most talented members, steal from those who had gained wealth through injustice, and return those goods to their rightful owners. Rob a Hlalu counselor who had used forged documents to steal land from a widow, take back a stolen family heirloom and return it to the victim, expose corruption, right wrongs, and always leave the symbol of the Baal Molagma behind. The Dunmer loved it. Here where the legendary Stonefire returned, fighting for justice in a society where justice was usually for sale. And because Jim never claimed credit for the Thieves Guild, because the Baal Molagma operated as a separate, but not really separate, entity, and the xenophobia that might have destroyed a foreign Thieves Guild didn't apply. The Baal Molagma were Dunmer heroes. The fact that a Red Guard was secretly behind them was irrelevant. It was brilliant strategy, but it wasn't enough to stop the Commoner Tong. The conflict between the two organizations escalated slowly. At first, it was economic, the Thieves Guild offering services that undercut the Commoner Tong's monopoly. Then it became territorial, disputes over who controlled which areas of Vivec City, which merchants paid protection to whom. Eventually, it became existential. One organization would survive, and one would be destroyed. The Commoner Tong's masterstroke was infiltrating the Fighters Guild. Shoring Hardheart, a Nord warrior with more muscle than morals, became master of the Fighters Guild in Vivec. Hardheart was deep in debt to the Commoner Tong, which meant he would do whatever they told him. And what they told him was simple: use the Fighters Guild to hunt down and eliminate members of the Thieves Guild. Suddenly, the Thieves Guild found itself fighting on two fronts. The Commoner Tong came at them from the shadows. The Fighters Guild came at them from the light, and caught between them, the Thieves Guild began to bleed. Jim's counter-strategy was methodical and ruthless. He couldn't go after the Commoner Tong directly, not yet. But he could weaken the Fighters Guild. He identified three key figures: Shoring Hardheart, the corrupt guildmaster, Idis Fireeye in Balmora, who had become a worshipper of Clavicus Vile and was known for her ruthlessness, and Hrundi in Sadrith Mora, Hardheart's former second-in-command. Hrundi was the weak point. Unlike the others, Hrundi was fundamentally decent. He had a Dunmer lover that he kept secret. Jim's agents found out about the relationship and used it as leverage. Join the Thieves Guild's cause, or we expose your secret. Hrundi, faced with the choice between his career and his heart, chose his heart. He became an ally. Idis Fireeye was more complicated. Jim concluded she couldn't be blackmailed or turned. She would have to be removed. Whether that meant killed or simply discredited, Jim left ambiguous. The point was that she could no longer be a threat. That left Shoring hard. And him, Jim decided, would have to die. The Nerevarine, that prophesied hero who arrived on Vardenfell during this period, became entangled in this war. If they chose to join the Thieves Guild, they would find themselves tasked with eliminating the Ainith brothers, top enforcers for the Camona Tong who lived at the Dren plantation. They would have to kill Shoring Hardheart himself, fighting their way through the Vivek Fighters Guild to reach the guildmaster in his quarters. These were not simple theft missions. These were hits, assassinations, the kind of work the Thieves Guild supposedly didn't do. But Jim was pragmatic. Rules were important, yes, but survival was more important. If the guild had to get blood on its hands to ensure the next generation wouldn't have to, then so be it. The war came to a head in a series of violent confrontations. The Thieves Guild struck at Camona Tong operations across Vardenfell. Safe houses were raided. Contraband shipments were intercepted. Key members were eliminated. It was brutal, efficient, and ultimately successful. According to some accounts, the Thieves Guild won. Hardheart and his lieutenants were brought to justice, either on Jim's orders or through an internal cleansing by the Fighters Guild itself. The Camona Tong's power was broken, their operations disrupted, their monopoly shattered. Jim Stacy proved that a foreign thieves guild could establish itself even in hostile Morrowind. According to other accounts, the Thieves Guild lost. The Camona Tong and the corrupt Fighters Guild wiped them out completely, and Jim Stacy died defending what he had built. The contradictory sources are typical of Elder Scrolls lore, where different accounts of the same events coexist without resolution. But one thing is certain: whether in victory or defeat, Jim Stacy and his Thieves Guild made their mark on Vardenfell. They proved that Nicholas's 3 rules could be adapted, bent when necessary, but never quite broken. They showed that the Thieves Guild was more than just an organization. It was an idea, flexible enough to survive in any culture, resilient enough to rebuild after any defeat. And there's one more detail worth noting. During this time, Jim Stacy possessed the Skeleton Key, that legendary artifact of Nocturnal, the Daedric Prince of Night and Shadow, the key that could open any lock, that could unlock potential itself. Jim used it, and when his time as Guildmaster ended, whether through death or retirement, the Skeleton Key passed to whoever came next. The connection to Nocturnal was growing stronger. What began as pragmatic thievery in Arbor's Landing was becoming something else, something touched by divine purpose. The Thieves Guild was starting to realize that they weren't just servants of their own ambition. They were, whether they liked it or not, part of something larger, something that involved powers beyond mortal comprehension. That realization would become explicit in Cyrodiil, where the Thieves Guild's connection to Nocturnal would produce one of the most enduring legends in all of Tamriel, the Grey Fox. Chapter 4, The Grey Fox and the Cursed Cowl. The late Third Era, the province of Cyrodiil, the heart of the Empire itself. Here, the Thieves Guild operates in the shadows of the most powerful government in Tamriel. And here, the Guild's relationship with Nocturnal takes a form both magnificent and terrible. Over 300 years before the Oblivion Crisis of the Third Era 433, a thief named Emer Daraloth committed an act of supreme audacity. He broke into the realm of Nocturnal herself The Evergloam, that shadowy dimension where darkness takes form and shadows have substance. And he stole from a Daedric prince. What he stole was the grey cowl of Nocturnal. The cowl was no ordinary artifact. It was a piece of Nocturnal herself, woven from the essence of the Evergloam. Thieves' leather from Hircine's hunting grounds with different runes, stitches made from chaotic creatia, gloamium rivets that trap light, materials coated in oil that imbued the cowl with literal shadows. When worn, it obscured the face completely. More than that, it obscured identity itself. Nocturnal's fury was immediate and absolute. You do not steal from a Daedric prince without consequences. She cursed the cowl with words that altered the fundamental nature of reality. Whosoever wears it shall be lost in the shadows. His true nature shall be unknown to all who meet him. His identity shall be struck from all records and histories. Memory will hide in the shadows, refusing to record the name of the owner to any who meet him. He shall be known by the cowl and only by the cowl. Emma Daraloth became the first Grey Fox. He founded the Cyrodiil Thieves Guild around the year 433-300, establishing it as a sophisticated network of thieves operating throughout the province. He became guildmaster. He wore the cowl, and slowly, inexorably, he watched his identity dissolve. His name was forgotten. His face became a blur in people's memories. His family forgot him. His friends couldn't remember who he was when he wasn't wearing the cowl. Official records lost his name, then lost that they had lost it. He existed only as the Grey Fox, that legendary master thief who had operated for impossible decades. When Emma Daraloth finally died, the cowl passed to his successor, and the curse went with it. For 3 centuries, the Grey Fox was the legend that every thief in Cyrodiil knew. He was the master of the Thieves Guild, the one who could never be caught, the ghost who walked through walls and vanished like smoke. Except he wasn't one person. He was dozens. Every guildmaster who wore the cowl became the Grey Fox. Their own identities were subsumed, forgotten, erased. They lived 2 lives, one as themselves, ordinary and forgettable, and one as the Grey Fox, legendary and eternal. The curse was perfect in its cruelty. You gained ultimate anonymity, yes. The guards could never identify you. Witnesses couldn't describe you. You could commit any crime and walk away untraceable. But you also lost everything that made you, you. Your achievements became the Grey Fox's achievements. Your victories were his victories. Your life became his life. And when you took off the cowl, you were nobody. A blank space in reality where a person should be. The Cyrodiil Thieves Guild, under the Grey Fox, became one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Tamriel. They operated from the imperial city itself, right under the nose of the empire. They had divisions in every major city: Anvil, Bravil, Bruma, Cheydinhal, Coral, Leowyn, Skingrad. Each division had a doyen who oversaw operations, reported to the Grey Fox, and managed the local thieves. The guild's rules evolved in Cyrodiil, crystallizing into the form that would define the organization for generations. The 3 rules from Abba's Landing were still there, but refined. First, never steal from another member of the guild. This was absolute. Internal theft meant immediate expulsion or worse. Second, never kill on the job. Violence was a last resort, acceptable only in self-defense. The guild wanted thieves, not murderers. Leave the killing to the Dark Brotherhood. Third, don't steal from the poor. This protected the guild's reputation among common folk. who might otherwise have supported guard crackdowns on criminal activity. In addition, there was an unofficial fourth rule: blood price. If you were caught and ratted out your fellow members, if you betrayed the guild in any way, you would pay, not with expulsion, with death. Treachery was the one unforgivable sin. The structure was elegant. New members started as pickpockets, quite literally. They were given practice targets and training. Move up the ranks by completing jobs. Footpad, bandit, prowler, cat burglar, shadowfoot, master thief. Each rank required demonstrating greater skill, completing more difficult heists, proving your worth to the organization. At the top sat the Grey Fox, mysterious and untouchable. He communicated through intermediaries, appeared and disappeared without warning, and somehow knew everything that happened in the criminal underworld. How could he not? He had been the Grey Fox for 300 years, in one sense. Every guildmaster's knowledge and experience accumulated in that identity, even if the individual wearing the cowl changed. The fences were crucial, as always. In Cyrodiil, they were respectable merchants with legitimate businesses who also moved stolen goods. They could clean stolen property, forge documents of provenance, and connect thieves with buyers who asked no questions. The most prominent were affiliated with the guild, paying for the privilege of handling the best merchandise. But by the time of the Oblivion Crisis in the Third Era, 433, the Cyrodiil Thieves Guild faced its greatest challenge. Not from the guards, not from rival criminals, but from one of their own. The current Grey Fox was a man named Corvus Umbranox. Before he put on the cowl, he had been Count of Anvil, a nobleman of wealth and position. He had joined the Thieves Guild seeking what? Adventure? A break from the tedium of nobility? The records don't say. But he rose through the ranks with remarkable speed, demonstrating natural talent and strategic brilliance. When the previous Grey Fox died, Corvus inherited the cowl and realized too late what he had done. His wife, Countess Milona Umbranox, forgot him. She remembered being married, but not to whom. The people of Anvil forgot their count. His position remained, his title remained, but the man himself dissolved from memory. Even Corvus himself began to forget. When he wore the cowl, he was the Grey Fox, fully and completely. When he took it off, he was diminished, fading, becoming less real with each passing day. He couldn't give up the cowl because the guild needed a guild master. He couldn't keep wearing it because he was losing himself. He was trapped in Nocturnal's curse, slowly being erased from existence. Corvus became obsessed with breaking the curse. He researched the cowl's history, traced its origins back to Ema Daraloth, sought any method of removing Nocturnal's magic without destroying the artifact. The cowl was too valuable to the guild. Its power was irreplaceable, but the curse was killing him. His quest led him to an ancient text called Azir Trajijazari, the 16 Accords of Madness, written in an ancient Khajiiti dialect. The book contains stories about confrontations between Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness, and other Daedric princes. One story was about Nocturnal, and hidden in that story, Corvus believed, was the key to breaking the curse. But the book had been lost, stolen, ironically enough, by a thief. A scholar at the Arcane University had taken it, then died, and the book vanished with him. Corvus needed someone to retrieve it, someone skilled enough to infiltrate the most secure locations in Cyrodiil, someone he could trust. enter the champion of Cyrodiil, the hero who would ultimately stop the Oblivion crisis and save the Empire. But before that grand destiny, they were just another thief looking for work in the Imperial City. The champion's introduction to the Thieves Guild was typical. They heard rumors about a garden in the Imperial City where beggars congregated. The beggars, it turned out, were the Guild's information network. For a small donation, they were to point you toward Armand Christophe, a beggar himself who served as the first point of contact. Armand gave the test: steal the diary of Amantius Electus, a minor Imperial citizen. Simple enough. Break into his house at night, pick the lock on his desk, take the diary, don't get caught, complete the task, and you were in. From there, the champion rose through the guild with remarkable speed, completed jobs for the doyens in each city, retrieved stolen property, infiltrated secure locations, demonstrated the kind of skill that made the Grey Fox himself take notice. Eventually, Corvus summoned the champion, explained his dilemma, the curse, the fading identity, the desperate need to break Nocturnal's magic, and he offered the champion the chance to make history, help him complete a series of impossible heists that would culminate in breaking into the Sinna, Imperial Palace itself, to recover the stolen Elder Scroll that had been used in the curse's creation. The champion's missions for the Grey Fox became legendary. They stole Savilla's stone from the Arcane University, an arrow of extrication that could open any lock from a retired master thief in Breville, and they recovered boots of Spring-Heeled Jack from a vampire in the Imperial City. Each heist required planning, skill, and nerve. Each one pushed the boundaries of what anyone thought possible. The final mission was insane. Break into the Imperial Palace, navigate the traps and guards, reach the Elder Scrolls Library, one of the most secure locations in all of Tamriel. Steal back the Elder Scroll that Emad Daraloth had used in creating the curse, and escape without being caught or killed. The champion succeeded. They brought the Elder Scroll to Corvus, and with it, the Grey Fox attempted what no previous guildmaster had dared. He tried to read the scroll, to understand the curse's nature, to find the weakness that would break it. Elder Scrolls are dangerous things to read. They show you truth, but truth in its rawest form, unfiltered by mortal perception. They can blind you, drive you mad, destroy your mind with knowledge that mortals weren't meant to comprehend. But Corvus was desperate. He read. What he saw in that scroll, what truths were revealed, we don't know precisely, but he understood. The curse could be broken, but not by him. It required someone else, someone who had never worn the cowl, someone who could take it to a specific place at a specific time and perform a specific ritual. That someone was the champion. The ritual was complex, involving the blood price of betrayers and ancient Khajiiti rites and the intercession of sacred places. But in the end, it worked. The curse broke. Not completely. The cowl still obscured identity when worn, but the permanent erasure, the slow dissolution of self that had plagued every Grey Fox, that ended. Corvus Umbranox took off the grey cowl for the last time, and he remembered who he was. And more importantly, others remembered him. His wife remembered her husband. The people of Anvil remembered their count. He could return to his old life, his noble identity restored. But the Thieves Guild still needed a guild master, and the Grey Fox still needed to exist. Corvus did something unprecedented. He passed the cowl to the champion, made them the new Grey Fox. But now, with the curse broken, The champion could wear the cowl when they needed its power and take it off when they wanted to be themselves. They didn't have to sacrifice their identity. They could have both lives. The champion became guildmaster of the Cyrodiil Thieves Guild. They were the Grey Fox, that legendary figure, continuing a tradition that stretched back 3 centuries. But they were also themselves, able to retire the cowl when they wished, to live a normal life, to be remembered. It should have been the beginning of a new golden age for the Thieves Guild. The curse broken, the guild stronger than ever, a guildmaster who could lead without losing themselves. But Tamriel has a way of destroying golden ages. The Oblivion Crisis was coming. Mehrunes Dagon's invasion would devastate Cyrodiil, killing millions and destroying the old order. Martin Septim would sacrifice himself to stop it, ending the Septim dynasty. The empire would fracture. And in the chaos that followed, in the 4th era that emerged from the crisis's ashes, the Thieves Guild would face challenges that made the Kamonatong look like children playing at crime. The guild would fall, and fall hard, and nowhere would that fall be more complete than in Skyrim. Chapter 5, The Nightingales and the Skeleton Key. The 4th era, 200 years after the Oblivion Crisis. The world has changed. The Empire is a shadow of itself. The provinces are breaking away. Old institutions are crumbling. And in the frozen north of Skyrim, the Thieves Guild is dying. Not metaphorically, actually dying. Month by month, year by year, bleeding members and reputation and luck itself, until nothing remains but a handful of desperate thieves hiding in the sewers of Riften, waiting for the inevitable end. This is not the guild of Cyrodiil's glory days. This is not Jim Stacy's disciplined organization or Nicholas's professional crew. This is a broken thing, held together by desperation and the fading memory of better times. And at the center of it all, wearing a guildmaster's title like a crown of thorns, sits a man named Mercer Fry. Mercer is everything a guildmaster should be on the surface. Skilled, intelligent, connected. He maintains the guild's public face, keeps the members in line, manages relations with the few clients they still have. Under his leadership, the Thieves Guild of Riften has survived when by all rights it should have died years ago. Except Mercer Fry is also a traitor, a murderer, a thief who stole not just from the guild, but from Nocturnal herself. And his crimes have brought a curse down on the organization that no amount of skill or intelligence can overcome. To understand how this happened, we need to go back. Back to before Mercer was guildmaster. Back to when the Thieves Guild in Skyrim was still strong, still successful, still worthy of its reputation. Back to the Nightingales. The Nightingales are a secret within a secret, an inner circle within the Thieves Guild, so secretive that most guild members don't even know they exist. They are the champions of Nocturnal, sworn servants of the Daedric Prince of Night, bound to her through oaths that transcend death itself. There have always been nightingales, stretching back through history. They work in trios. 3 agents of Nocturnal, each taking a different role. The agent, the Night Strider, and the Gatekeeper. Each role has specific duties, specific powers, specific responsibilities. Together, they guard one of Nocturnal's most sacred sites, the Twilight Sepulchre. The Twilight Sepulchre is a temple deep in the mountains of Skyrim. It's ancient, built by worshippers of Nocturnal in ages past as a place of devotion and protection. But it's more than just a temple. It's a prison, a vault, a gateway to the Evergloam itself, and it contains the Ebonmere, a portal to Nocturnal's realm. Through the Ebonmere, Nocturnal's essence flows into Tamriel, granting her influence over the mortal world. It's a connection that must be maintained, protected, kept pure, and uncorrupted. That's what the Nightingales do. They are the guardians of the Ebonmere, the protectors of Nocturnal's gateway. In exchange for this service, Nocturnal grants the Nightingales power. The Nightingale's strife allows them to drain life from their enemies. The Nightingale's subterfuge lets them command others briefly. The Nightingale's shadow creates a duplicate of the Nightingale that fights alongside them for a short time. These aren't simple spells or tricks. These are pieces of Nocturnal's own power, channeled through her chosen agents. But there's a price. When a Nightingale dies, their soul doesn't go to Sovngarde or the Dreamsleave, or wherever mortal souls typically end up. It goes to the Evergloam, to Nocturnal's realm, to serve her in death as they served her in life. It's eternal servitude, but the Nightingales accept it willingly. The power is worth the price. The purpose is worth the sacrifice. 25 years before the events of Skyrim's game, the Nightingales were three: Gallus, Carlia, and Mercer Frey. Gallus was the leader, an Altmer, which was unusual in Skyrim, but his skill was undeniable. He served as guildmaster of the Thieves Guild, in addition to his role as a Nightingale. Under his leadership, the guild prospered. Jobs were plentiful, money flowed, members were skilled and disciplined. The guild had respect, influence, and most importantly, Nocturnal's favor. Carlia was the second, a Dunmer woman, daughter of Queen Baranzaya herself, though she never used that connection. She had been raised by Gallus after her mother abandoned her, and she loved him like a father. Her skills as a thief and as a warrior were exceptional. She served as the Night Strider, moving between the guild and the sepulchre, carrying messages and maintaining vigilance. Mercer Frey was the third, a Nord, ambitious and talented. He joined the Nightingales not out of devotion to Nocturnal, but out of desire for power, and he was cunning enough to hide that fact. Gallus trusted him, Carlia trusted him, Nocturnal tolerated him. The partnership worked for years. The three Nightingales protected the Twilight Sepulchre, served Nocturnal's interests, and ensured the Thieves Guild remained strong and prosperous. But Mercer grew restless. The power Nocturnal granted wasn't enough. He wanted more, and in the Twilight Sepulchre, he found it, the skeleton key. This artifact appears throughout the history of the Ikasat Sumner Thieves Guild. Jim Stacy had it in Morrowind. Other guildmasters possessed it at various times, but few understood what it truly was. It wasn't just a lockpick that never broke. It wasn't just a tool that could open any lock. It was a key to potential itself. The skeleton key is a piece of Nocturnal. One of her artifacts, yes, but more than that. It represents her sphere of influence, unlocking potential, revealing hidden pathways, opening doors that should remain closed. In a very real sense, the key is Nocturnal's will made manifest, and it had been entrusted to the Twilight Sepulchre for safekeeping. Mercer stole it. The theft was audacious and unthinkable in equal measure. You don't steal from Nocturnal. You don't betray a Daedric prince who has granted you power. You don't take the most sacred artifact from the most sacred place and expect to escape consequences. But Mercer did it anyway. Gallus discovered the theft. We know this because of his journal, recovered much later. He wrote about his investigation, his growing suspicions, his horror as he realized what Mercer had done. He confronted Mercer at a place called Snowvale Sanctum, an old Nordic ruin that the guild sometimes used for storage. The confrontation ended with Gallus dead, murdered by Mercer, struck down by the man he had trusted as a brother. Mercer then did something even more despicable. He framed Carlia for the murder. Mercer claimed that Carlia had killed Gallus, that she had betrayed the guild, that she was a traitor who needed to be hunted down and eliminated. The guild believed him. Why wouldn't they? Mercer was trustworthy. Mercer was loyal. Mercer had no reason to lie. Carlia fled into the wilderness. For 25 years, she lived in the shadows, surviving on cunning and skill, investigating what had really happened. She knew she hadn't killed Gallus, which meant someone had framed her, and slowly, painfully, she pieced together the truth. Meanwhile, Mercer took over as guildmaster. He possessed the skeleton key, which granted him abilities beyond normal thievery. He could unlock doors that shouldn't open. He could open pathways that didn't exist. He could, in theory, unlock unlimited potential in himself. But Nocturnal's curse fell on the guild. It was subtle at first. Jobs went wrong more often. Guards got lucky. Informants betrayed the guild. Members died in accidents that shouldn't have happened. The flow of gold slowed to a trickle, then stopped entirely. New recruits stopped coming. Old members retired or moved away. The guild's reputation began to rot. By the Fourth Era 201, when the events of Skyrim take place, the Riften Thieves Guild was a fraction of its former strength. They operated out of the Ragged Flagon, a tavern in the Ratway beneath Riften, hidden in the sewers where they belonged. Their guild hall, once proud, was now a haven for drunks and failures. The members were few and desperate. Brynjolf, the second in command, trying to hold things together through personality and optimism. Vex, a master infiltrator who had forgotten what success tasted like. Delvin Mallory, a fence and information broker who remembered better days. Sapphire, Thrin, Rune, Sinric, each with their own stories, all of them clinging to the Thieves Guild because they had nowhere else to go. And at the center, Mercer, still guildmaster, still trusted, though that trust was wearing thin, still playing the role of leader while secretly bleeding the guild dry, embezzling what little gold they had, preparing for the day when he could abandon this sinking ship entirely. Into this disaster walked the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn's path to the Thieves Guild began as these things often do with Brynjolf, a chance encounter in Riften's marketplace. Brynjolf was running a con, selling fake potions to gullible marks. He spotted the Dragonborn and saw potential, skill, competence, something the guild desperately needed. He offered a test, plant a stolen ring on a merchant and steal it back as a frame job. Classic misdirection, simple enough for an amateur, but requiring genuine skill to pull off. The Dragonborn succeeded. Brynjolf recruited them on the spot. The Dragonborn joined a dying organization. Their early jobs were pathetic. Shake down merchants for protection money, intimidate shopkeepers, do the kind of petty criminal work that Nicholas would have been ashamed of. But they did it well. They demonstrated talent, and slowly they began to restore the guild's reputation. They burned beehives to drive out competitors. They cleared out bandits who had set up in old guild hideouts. They retrieved the Quill of Gemination, an artifact that could duplicate documents from a fortress held by hostile mercenaries. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. Then Mercer assigned them to work with Carlia. He presented it as eliminating a traitor. Carlia was supposedly operating near Snowvale Sanctum. The Dragonborn would go with Mercer to kill her, to finally avenge Gallus's murder after 25 years. Justice delayed, but not denied, except when they reached Snowvale Sanctum. Everything went wrong. Carlia was waiting. She shot the Dragonborn with a poisoned arrow designed not to kill, but to paralyze. And as the Dragonborn lay frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, Carlia revealed the truth to Mercer. She knew everything. The theft of the skeleton key, Gallus's murder, the framing, the betrayal. She had spent 25 years gathering evidence, and now she had it all, including Gallus's journal, written in former language to keep it secret, documenting Mercer's crimes. Mercer didn't bother denying it. Why would he? There was no one to hear except the Dragonborn, who was paralyzed and would die when the ruins collapsed, and Carlia, who he would kill momentarily. He admitted everything, boasted about it. Then he triggered the ruins' ancient traps, causing the structure to collapse, and fled. He left Carlia and the Dragonborn to die. But Carlia was quick. She pulled the Dragonborn to safety, dragged them through the collapsing tunnels, and escaped into the wilderness. By the time the Dragonborn recovered from the poison, they were miles away, and they knew the truth. The Dragonborn returned to Riften and told Brynjolf everything. Brynjolf, to his credit, didn't dismiss it out of hand. He listened, examined the evidence, read Gallus's journal after Carlia translated it, and he believed. The guild was in chaos. Their guildmaster was a traitor. Their greatest enemy had been innocent all along. Everything they thought they knew was wrong. And Mercer, realizing that his secret was out, had fled, taken the guild's remaining gold and run. But Brynjolf knew where he would go. Not away from Skyrim, not into hiding. No, Mercer would go back to the Twilight Sepulchre. He had the skeleton key, yes, but he wanted more. There was a vault deep within the sepulchre, filled with the treasures that Nocturnal's faithful had accumulated over millennia. Mercer would take everything he could carry, then use the key to open a path to somewhere safe where he could enjoy his stolen wealth. Before they could pursue Mercer, though, Carlia insisted on something else. The Dragonborn needed to become a nightingale. The oath had to be renewed. Nocturnal needed new champions to replace the traitor and the murdered and the exiled. Carlia led the Dragonborn and Brynjolf to a place they didn't know existed, the Nightingale Hall. Hidden deep beneath Riften, accessible only through secret passages, it was the Nightingale's headquarters, a chamber dedicated to Nocturnal, with armor stands holding the distinctive Nightingale armor, with murals depicting the Daedric Prince in all her dark glory, with an inner sanctum where the oath was sworn. The ceremony was ancient and binding. Stand before the Ebonmere's reflection, the gateway to Nocturnal's realm that mirrored the one in the Twilight Sepulchre. Speak the oath. Pledge your life to Nocturnal's service. Offer your soul to the Evergloam when death finally claims you. Nocturnal manifested, not physically, but her voice filled the chamber, ancient and powerful and utterly inhuman. She accepted the oath. She granted her power to the new Nightingales. The Dragonborn became the agent. Brynjolf became the gatekeeper. Carlia resumed her role as Nightstrider. The Trinity was complete once more. Now they could pursue Mercer. Now they had Nocturnal's blessing to hunt the traitor and reclaim what he had stolen. The journey to the Twilight Sepulchre was treacherous, through the mountains of Skyrim, following paths that only Carlisle remembered. When they arrived, they found Mercer had already broken in. The temple's defenses, designed to keep out intruders, had been unlocked with the skeleton key. He was deep inside, in the vault, loading himself with treasures. The confrontation was violent and desperate. Mercer Frey, empowered by the skeleton key for 25 years, was no ordinary thief. He could unlock potential in himself, making him stronger, faster, deadlier. He could turn invisible at will. He could paralyze his opponents. The key had transformed him into something beyond mortal capability. But he faced 3 nightingales, empowered by Nocturnal herself. The fight raged through the ancient temple, past the statue of Nocturnal that dominated the main chamber, through corridors filled with traps and treasures. Water poured in from the cavern systems around the sepulchre, flooding the lower levels, adding drowning to the list of ways they could die. In the end, the nightingales prevailed. Mercer Frey fell. The traitor was dead. The skeleton key was recovered. Justice, after 25 years, was finally served. But the key still needed to be returned. The Ebonmere in the Twilight Sepulchre had grown dim, corrupted by Mercer's presence and the key's absence. Nocturnal's connection to the mortal world was weakening. If it broke entirely, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for the Thieves Guild, but for all who operated in shadow and secrecy across Tamriel. The Dragonborn carried the skeleton key deep into the Twilight Sepulchre, to the inner sanctum where the Ebonmere pulsed with fading light. And there, they made a choice that few others in their position would make. They returned the key. They could have kept it. The skeleton key is one of the most powerful artifacts in Tamriel. With it, you could unlock anything, open any door, bypass any obstacle, unlock your own potential to unlimited heights. It was the kind of power that heroes are known for, the kind of artifact that appears in legends. But returning it was the right thing to do. It belonged to Nocturnal. It was needed to maintain the Ebonmere, and the Dragonborn had sworn an oath. They were a nightingale. They served Nocturnal. Personal power mattered less than duty. When the key was returned to its receptacle in the inner sanctum, the Ebonmere flared with light. The corruption burned away. Nocturnal's connection to the mortal world was restored, stronger than before. A Nocturnal herself appeared, her voice resonating through the temple with approval and promise. She named the Dragonborn her champion, not just a nightingale, but the agent of Nocturnal, the hand of shadow and luck in the mortal world. She granted them a power that would last forever. Once per day, the Dragonborn could call upon Nocturnal to turn them invisible, intangible, untouchable for 2 full minutes. The agent of stealth, she called it, the ultimate thief's tool, a gift from a Daedric prince. The Dragonborn returned to Riften to find the Thieves Guild transformed. With Mercer dead and the skeleton key returned, Nocturnal's curse lifted. Suddenly, jobs started succeeding again. Gold flowed. New recruits appeared. The luck that had abandoned the guild returned with interest. Brynjolf, as the senior member, should have become guild master, but Brynjolf declined. He didn't want the position. He had been second in command under 2 failed guild masters now, Gallus and Mercer. He had seen what the position cost. Instead, he proposed the Dragonborn. The guild agreed unanimously. The Dragonborn had saved them, restored them, returned their luck. They had proven themselves a dozen times over, and they were a nightingale, Nocturnal's champion. Who better to lead? The ceremony was simple. Stood before the assembled guild in the ragged flagon. Brynjolf gave a speech about new beginnings and restoration, and then he handed over the tribute chest, the repository of the guild's wealth, and with it the title of guildmaster. But the work wasn't done. A guild with 5 members and 1 location wasn't much of a guild. The Dragonborn set about restoring the organization to its former glory. They took special jobs from Delvin Mallory and Vex, re-establishing the guild's presence in the major cities of Skyrim. In Whiterun, they stole a statue of Dibella from the temple, sending a message that the guild was back and no target was too sacred. In Windhelm, they extracted information from a corrupt merchant, proving the guild's reach extended even into the heart of Ulfric Stormcloak's territory. In Solitude, the capital, they infiltrated the East Empire Company and stole important documents demonstrating that even the Empire's interests weren't safe. In Markarth, they framed a rival criminal organization, eliminating competition. Each city they re-established and brought new members, new contacts, new opportunities. The guild hall in the Ragged Flagon was renovated, transformed from a decrepit tavern into something worthy of the organization. Merchants set up shops. Trainers offered their services. The Thieves Guild became, once again, an institution. And through it all, the Dragonborn maintained the 3 rules. No stealing from guild members, no killing on the job, protection for the poor. The traditions that stretch back to Nicholas in Abba's Landing, refined through centuries, maintained in a new age by a new guild master. The Thieves Guild of Skyrim had fallen and risen again. They had faced betrayal, curse, and near destruction. And they had survived, not despite Nocturnal's involvement, but because of it. The Nightingales had fulfilled their purpose. The skeleton key had been returned, and the guild had learned a hard lesson. Some prices are worth paying. Some oaths are worth keeping. Some duties transcend personal ambition. This was the Thieves Guild at its most complex. Not just criminals, but devotees. Not just thieves, but champions of a Daedric prince. The line between pragmatic crime and religious service had blurred so completely that separating them became impossible. The guild served its members, yes, but it also served Nocturnal. And in serving Nocturnal, it served something larger than itself. Chapter 6. The language of shadows, shadow marks, and guild culture. Let's talk about something quieter now. Something that doesn't involve legendary artifacts or Daedric curses. Let's talk about the everyday life of the Thieves Guild, the culture that binds members together, the traditions that make the organization more than just a collection of criminals. Let's talk about shadow marks. If you know where to look, you can find them everywhere in Tamriel. Small symbols carved into door frames, etched into stonework, marked with chalk on walls. They're subtle, easy to miss if you don't know they exist. But once you learn to see them, you realize they're everywhere. A secret language written across the cities and towns, invisible to law-abiding citizens, but clear as day to those who live in shadow. Shadow marks are old, ancient even. No one knows precisely when they were created, but they date back at least to the Second Era, possibly earlier. They're a universal code used by thieves across Tamriel, transcending regional differences and cultural barriers. A shadow mark in Skyrim means the same thing as a shadow mark in Cyrodiil or Hammerfell. They're one of the few truly universal elements of Thieves' culture. Each mark has a specific meaning. The guild mark, a diamond shape, indicates that the Thieves Guild has a presence nearby. It's both a welcome sign for members and a warning to rivals. This territory is claimed. The loot mark, a circle with horizontal lines through it, marks a location with valuables worth stealing. Simple, direct, universally understood. The danger mark, an X inside a circle, warns that a location is protected by competent guards, effective security, or traps that could kill an unwary thief. It doesn't mean don't rob this place, necessarily. It means be careful. The empty mark, a circle with a single diagonal line, means don't bother. There's nothing worth stealing here. Move on. The cache mark looks like a pile of squares, and it indicates a dead drop location where items or messages can be left for other guild members. The protected mark, a sideways crescent, means the owner has paid protection money or is otherwise under the guild's aegis. Don't steal from here or face consequences. The safe mark, a simple box shape, indicates a safe house where guild members can rest without fear of betrayal or capture. These locations are sacrosanct. Even rival thieves respect safe houses because they know that burning one means retaliation. The fence mark, resembling a stylized key, points towards someone who will buy stolen goods. No questions asked. There's a kind of poetry to shadow marks. They're a written language created by the illiterate, a communication system designed for people who might not be able to read traditional text. They transcend linguistic barriers because they're not words, they're concepts. Any thief from any province can understand them at a glance. In Skyrim, Delvin Mallory is the master of shadow marks. He knows them all, can read them from across a street, and teaches new guild members the language as part of their initiation. He's written extensively about them, cataloguing variations and regional differences, documenting their evolution over time. To Delvin, shadow marks aren't just tools. They're history written on walls, a genealogy of thief culture stretching back centuries. But shadow marks are just one element of guild culture. There's also the matter of advancement and specialization. The ranking system in the Thieves Guild follows a general pattern across regions, though specific titles vary. You start at the bottom as a pickpocket or apprentice, complete jobs, demonstrate skill, move up to footpad, then prowler, then bandit. Each rank brings new responsibilities and new opportunities. Higher ranked thieves get better jobs, larger shares of profits, more respect from their peers. At the top sits the guildmaster, but below them are specialists. Every guild needs a fence, someone to move stolen goods. They need information brokers who maintain networks of informants and beggars. They need infiltration experts who can slip past any security. They need safe crackers, lock breakers, climbers, forgers, counterfeiters, pickpockets, burglars, cat burglars. Specialization is encouraged. You might start as a general thief, but eventually you find your niche. What are you best at? Breaking locks? Then focus on that. Perfect your technique until you can open mechanisms that others can't even attempt. Good with people? Become a con artist, a smooth talker who can walk into secure locations through charm rather than stealth. Excellent climber. Specialize in high-altitude work, second-story jobs that require scaling walls and walking rooftops. The guild provides training. Veterans teach newcomers. Techniques are passed down through generations, refined and improved. A master pickpocket might train a dozen apprentices over their career, each learning the subtle art of lifting purses without detection. A legendary infiltrator might take on one protege, someone with exceptional natural talent, and teach them secrets known to only a handful of living thieves. There's a code of conduct beyond the 3 rules. Don't brag about your successes to civilians. Don't draw unnecessary attention to the guild. If you're caught, don't rat out your fellows. Keep guild business within the guild. What happens in the ragged flagon stays in the ragged flagon. The relationship between the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood is complex and carefully maintained. Both organizations operate in the criminal underworld. Both deal in activities that law-abiding citizens find repugnant. But they're not rivals. They're not competitors. They serve different purposes. The Thieves Guild steals things. The Dark Brotherhood kills people. The two rarely overlap. If a thief kills someone during a job, they've failed as a thief. If an assassin steals something during a contract, they've added unnecessary complications. Each organization stays in its lane, and both benefit from the arrangement. There's a professional respect between them. Brotherhood members might use guild fences to sell valuables taken from their targets. Guild members might ask the Brotherhood about security around a particular location. They don't share hideouts or leadership, but they maintain cordial relations. In some cities, they even cooperate on jobs that require both theft and assassination. The one point of tension is nocturnal versus cities. The guild serves a Daedric prince. The Brotherhood serves the void itself. These aren't compatible philosophies, but they're not incompatible enough to cause conflict. Nocturnal wants stealth and secrets. Sithis wants death and endings. Both can coexist without treading on each other's domains. Payment in the Thieves Guild follows established patterns. When you complete a job, you report to your superior. They verify the work was done correctly. Then you receive your cut. The exact percentage varies by region and rank, but generally, lower-ranked thieves get smaller shares. As you advance, your percentage increases. Guildmasters take a portion of every job to fund guild operations, maintain safe houses, bribe guards, pay off informants. Fences are crucial to this economy. Stolen goods can't be sold openly. Even if you steal a priceless necklace, you can't just walk into a jewelry shop and sell it. The owner will ask questions. Guards will be called. You'll be arrested. Fences solve this problem. They have contacts in legitimate markets. They can clean stolen goods, creating fake provenance documents, waiting for the heat to die down, then selling items through channels that can't be traced back to the theft. Good fences are worth their weight in gold. A fence who pays fair prices, moves goods quickly, and doesn't ask awkward questions about where you got that suspiciously specific item. That's someone you want to maintain a relationship with. The guild protects its fences carefully because losing one means losing a crucial link in the profit chain. There's a social hierarchy within the guild beyond simple rank. Reputation matters. A thief who pulls off an impossible heist becomes legendary, regardless of their official rank. A master who trains exceptional students earns respect. A member who saves another member's life creates a bond that transcends organizational structure. Conversely, failures have consequences. Botch a simple job and you become the butt of jokes. Get caught repeatedly and you're considered a liability. rat out fellow members, and, well, that's when blood price comes into play. Death is the penalty for betrayal, carried out swiftly and without mercy. The guild survives on trust. Break that trust, and you've forfeited your right to live. The culture varies by region, of course. The Cyrodiil Guild under the Grey Fox was formal, almost ceremonial in its traditions. The Skyrim Guild, even restored, is rougher, more desperate, shaped by its near destruction. The Iliac Bay Guild was aristocratic, comfortable with nobility and high society. The Vardenfell Guild was embattled, constantly fighting for survival. But certain elements remain constant. The three rules, the shadow marks, the emphasis on skill over violence, the belief that theft is a profession worthy of respect, that stealing well requires intelligence and training and dedication. These core values define the Thieves Guild across regions and centuries. And always, there's the connection to Nocturnal. Sometimes explicit, as with the Nightingales. Sometimes implicit, as with thieves who might not even know her name, but who unconsciously honor her through their worship of shadow and stealth and secrecy. The guild might present itself as a purely pragmatic organization, but scratch the surface and you find devotion, faith disguised as professionalism, prayer disguised as thievery. Which brings us to the question that underlies everything. Who is Nocturnal really? What does she want from her thieves? And why does a Daedric prince care about criminals at all? Chapter 7. The Mistress of Shadows. Nocturnal and her domain. Picture darkness. Not the absence of light, but darkness as a presence, as a force, as a living thing. Darkness that moves when you're not looking. Darkness that hides secrets and bursts mysteries. Darkness that existed before creation and will exist after everything ends. That darkness has a name. That darkness has a will. Nocturnal, the Daedric Prince of Night, Shadow, Darkness, Luck, and Thieves. The Urdra, one of the original spirits that existed before Mundus was created. The daughter of Twilight, the Night Mistress, the Mistress of Shadows. She has more titles than names, and every title hints at a different facet of her nature. Understanding Nocturnal requires understanding what Daedric princes are. They're not gods in the traditional sense, though mortals worship them as such. They're pieces of reality itself, concepts given consciousness and power. Nocturnal is night, not represents night, not symbolizes night. She is night in all its forms and meanings, darkness and secrecy and the unknown, the hidden pathways and the forgotten truths, the luck that favors the bold and the shadows that conceal the clever. Her realm is the Evergloam, and it's everything you'd expect from a dimension ruled by the embodiment of darkness. Perpetual twilight, neither day nor night, but something between. Endless caverns and infinite forests where light never quite reaches. A place where shadows move independently of their casters, where darkness is liquid and solid and gas all at once. It's beautiful in its own way. If you can appreciate beauty that exists in the absence of light, the Evergloam isn't empty. It contains treasures accumulated over eternity, artifacts and secrets and forgotten knowledge. It contains creatures of shadow, beings that exist only in darkness, and it contains souls, mortals who have sworn oaths to Nocturnal, who have bound themselves to her service, who now serve in death as they served in life. The Nightingales go there. Other devotees too. It's not punishment, exactly. More like continuation. They remain what they were, serving their mistress forever. Nocturnal's motivations are difficult to understand because she operates on a scale mortals can barely comprehend. Why does she care about thieves? Why does she grant them power? Why does she maintain the Thieves Guild and punish betrayers like Mercer Frey? Part of it is simply her nature. She is the patron of thieves because theft operates in darkness, in shadow, in secrecy. Thieves honor her domain through their profession. Every successful heist is a prayer to Nocturnal. Every lock picked in darkness is devotion. She doesn't need to be worshipped with temples and priests because she's worshipped every time someone slips through shadows unseen. But there's more to it than that. Nocturnal understands something that other Daedric princes sometimes forget. Influence over mortals requires investment. Mehrunes Dagon destroys. Molag Bal dominates. Boethia tests. These are valid approaches, certainly, but they create resistance. Mortals fight back against princes who only take. Nocturnal gives. She grants luck to her thieves. She provides artifacts that make them successful. She protects them through shadow marks and safe houses. She empowers her nightingales with abilities that transcend mortal capability. And in return, she receives devotion. Not forced, not coerced, chosen. Thieves serve Nocturnal because serving her is profitable and empowering, not because they're afraid of her. That's genius. That's understanding how to maintain long-term influence over mortal affairs. Make your servants want to serve. Make them benefit from service. Create a relationship where both parties gain from the arrangement. Nocturnal's thieves prosper, and Nocturnal gains countless agents across Tamriel, spreading her influence, extending her reach, carrying out her will often without realizing they're doing so. Her artifacts are extensions of this philosophy. The skeleton key opens locks, yes, but it does so much more. It unlocks potential. It reveals hidden pathways. In the right hands, it can reshape reality by opening doors that shouldn't exist. That's why it's so dangerous, why it must be kept in the Twilight Sepulchre under guard. It's too powerful for mortals to possess permanently. The grey cowl of Nocturnal obscures identity, protecting thieves from consequences. The curse was punishment for Emer Daraloth's theft. Yes, but even cursed, the cowl served Nocturnal's purposes. It created the legend of the Grey Fox, an eternal master thief who operated across centuries. That legend inspired countless criminals to join the Thieves Guild, to seek Nocturnal's favor, to worship shadow and stealth. The curse was punishment and recruitment, tools simultaneously. Other artifacts too. The Nightingale Blade, which corrupts its targets with darkness. The Nightingale Armor, which makes its wearers nearly invisible. The Nightingale Bow, which drains magicka and stamina from enemies. Each item serves a purpose beyond simple utility. Each one spreads Nocturnal's influence, makes her thieves more effective, ensures her domain extends further into the mortal world. But Nocturnal isn't solely focused on thieves. Her sphere includes all things hidden, all secrets, all knowledge concealed from common view. Spies serve her. Assassins work in her domain. Anyone who operates in shadow, who moves unseen, who trades in secrets, they're potentially Nocturnal's agents, whether they realize it or not. There's a philosophy here worth examining. Nocturnal represents the idea that some things should remain hidden, that not all knowledge should be public, that darkness has value beyond simply concealing crimes. In a world where magic can reveal thoughts and scrying can pierce any veil, Nocturnal represents the right to privacy, to secrecy, to keeping some parts of yourself unknown to others. The Thieves Guild then becomes more than just criminals. They become defenders of this principle. When they steal, they prove that nothing is truly secure, that no amount of protection can guarantee safety. They're constant reminders that darkness cannot be eliminated, that secrets cannot all be exposed, that there will always be things hidden from view. This makes Nocturnal fundamentally at odds with princes like Hermaeus Mora, who seeks to know everything, or Meridia, who wants to burn away all shadow. These princes represent opposing philosophies. Mora wants all knowledge revealed and collected. Meridia wants all darkness eliminated. Nocturnal wants preservation of mystery, maintenance of shadow, protection of secrets. The conflict rarely becomes open warfare because Daedric princes operate through proxies. But the philosophical battle plays out constantly. Mora's servants seek hidden knowledge. Nocturnal servants hide knowledge more cleverly. Meridia's devotees burn away shadows. Nocturnal's thieves create new shadows elsewhere. It's an eternal game played across all of Tamriel, with mortal souls as the pieces. Nocturnal's relationship with mortals is transactional, but not cold. She seems to genuinely favor her skilled thieves, rewarding them beyond simple quid pro quo. When the Dragonborn returned the skeleton key, Nocturnal didn't just say thanks. She granted permanent powers, made them her champion, showed what could be interpreted as actual gratitude. That's unusual for a Daedric prince, or perhaps it's not gratitude. Perhaps it's recognition that this particular mortal is useful, valuable, worth investing in for long-term gains. Nocturnal plays long games. She's one of the oldest Daedric princes, if not the oldest. She understands that immediate gratification matters less than sustained advantage. The Nightingales are her greatest success in mortal recruitment. 3 champions at a time, granted considerable power, bound to serve forever. They guard the Twilight Sepulchre, maintaining her connection to Mundus. They lead the Thieves Guild, ensuring it remains strong and effective. They operate as her hands in the mortal world, carrying out tasks that Nocturnal cannot or will not do herself. And when they die, they come to the Evergloam. They don't lose identity or consciousness. They remain themselves, serving Nocturnal as they served her in life. It's not torment. The Nightingales accept this fate willingly because the power is worth the price. Eternal service in exchange for extraordinary capability during life. Many consider that a fair trade. Nocturnal rarely manifests directly. She prefers to work through agents, artifacts, and subtle influence. When she does appear, it's usually just a voice, a presence, a sense of being watched by something vast and ancient and utterly inhuman. The few mortals who have seen her physical form describe a woman wrapped in shadow, beautiful and terrifying, with eyes that hold the darkness between stars. But descriptions are unreliable. Daedric princes don't have physical forms in the way mortals do. They appear as they wish to appear, shaped by their own desires and the expectations of those viewing them. Nocturnal might appear as a woman to one person and as living shadow to another. Both perceptions are true, both are false. She is what she is, night-given consciousness. There are theories about why she invests so heavily in the Thieves Guild specifically. Some scholars suggest it's because organized crime creates more shadows than random chaos. An orderly underworld is a darker underworld, ironically. More secrets are kept, more mysteries are maintained, more darkness is preserved. Random violence brings light, investigations, revelations, justice. Organized theft keeps things hidden, maintains the shadows. Others suggest she simply appreciates skill. Nocturnal seems to favor competence over faith. A skilled thief who doesn't worship her is more valuable than a devout worshipper who can't pick a lock. She's pragmatic. She wants results. The Thieves Guild provides those results, so she supports the guild. Or maybe she likes the game. Daedric princes are eternal. They've existed since before time began and will exist after it ends. Eternity is long. Perhaps Nocturnal finds the Thieves Guild entertaining. Watching mortals scheme and steal and betray and occasionally succeed despite impossible odds. Seeing how her investment of power and favor plays out across centuries, making small adjustments to maintain the game's interest. We'll never know for certain. Nocturnal doesn't explain herself to mortals. She acts, she rewards, she punishes, and she maintains her domain, keeping darkness alive in a world that sometimes seems determined to expose every secret and illuminate every shadow. The Thieves Guild is her masterpiece, an organization that has survived for millennia, that has spread across all of Tamriel, that has adapted to every culture and every challenge. It's proof that darkness cannot be eliminated, that shadows will always exist, that secrecy and stealth and the subtle art of theft will endure as long as civilization itself. And as long as the guild endures, Nocturnal's influence remains. Every shadow mark is her symbol. Every picked lock is her prayer. Every successful heist is her triumph. The thieves might think they serve themselves, but they serve her too. Willingly or not, knowingly or not, they are hers. All who walk in shadow belong to Nocturnal in the end. Chapter 8. Across the Eras. Evolution and Adaptation. Let's step back now. Look at the bigger picture. The Thieves Guild, as we've discussed it, exists in fragments across different games, different timelines, different provinces. But taken together, those fragments reveal something remarkable. An organization that has survived and adapted across thousands of years. Think about that. 3 eras, a minimum, possibly 4. From the Second Era, founding in Abar's Landing, to the 4th Era restoration in Skyrim. We're looking at roughly 700 years of documented history. And the guild likely existed before that, in forms we don't have records of. 700 years. Empires have risen and fallen in less time. Dynasties have been born, ruled, and died out. Magic has evolved. Technology has advanced. Cultures have transformed. And through it all, the Thieves Guild has endured. How? Adaptation is the answer. The guild has never remained static. It has never clung to tradition at the cost of survival. Instead, it has evolved to match whatever environment it finds itself in, like water finding new channels when old ones dry up. In Abar's Landing during the Second Era, the guild adapted to merchant culture. It became a business, treating theft as a service industry. It negotiated with the magnates, paid fees, maintained order. This was revolutionary at the time. The idea that criminals could be businessmen, that theft could be civilized. But it worked because it matched the culture of Hammerfell's merchant cities. When the guild spread to the Iliac Bay later in the Third Era, it adapted again. Here, the culture was feudal and aristocratic. So the guild became aristocratic too. It cultivated relationships with nobles. It took on political jobs. It positioned itself as a power broker, playing the great houses against each other. A merchant guild approach wouldn't have worked in High Rock. An aristocratic approach was necessary. In Morrowind, yet another adaptation, Dunmer culture is xenophobic, traditional, resistant to foreign influence. So Jim Stacey didn't try to establish a foreign Thieves Guild. Instead, he resurrected the Baal Molechma, wrapping the guild in Dunmer mythology, making it seem like a return to traditional values rather than an invasion of outlander criminals. Brilliant. He gave the Dunmer what they wanted to see while building his organization beneath that acceptable surface. Cyrodiil saw the guild at perhaps its most sophisticated. Operating in the heart of the Empire required maximum subtlety, so the guild became invisible, hidden behind the legend of the Grey Fox. It cultivated the image of a supernatural master thief who had operated for centuries, making the actual organization seem almost mythical. Who could prosecute a myth? How do you arrest a legend? And in Skyrim, after near destruction, the guild adapted by embracing its connection to Nocturnal fully. The Nightingales, once secret, became central to the organization's identity. The guild stopped pretending to be purely pragmatic and acknowledged its religious dimensions. This wasn't retreat into mysticism. It was recognition that divine favor was a competitive advantage. If you have a Daedric prince backing you, you advertise that fact. Each adaptation was different, but certain core elements remained constant. The 3 rules, originated by Nicholas, appear in every version of the guild we've seen. No stealing from each other, no killing on jobs, protect the poor. These aren't just ethical guidelines, they're survival strategies. They keep the guild unified, keep unnecessary heat off the organization, and maintain public support. The ranking system, while varying in specific titles, follows similar patterns everywhere. Apprentices at bottom, specialists in middle, masters at top. This provides clear advancement paths, encouraging members to improve their skills, creating a culture of excellence. The Fence network is universal. Every Thieves Guild chapter maintains relationships with merchants who can move stolen goods. This is non-negotiable. Without fences, theft is pointless. You can steal all the treasure in Tamriel, but if you can't sell it, it's worthless. Shadow marks, or something similar, appear everywhere the guild operates. The specific symbols might vary slightly by region, but the concept remains: a secret language that lets thieves communicate without words, marking territory and opportunities and dangers, and always lurking beneath or woven throughout the connection to Nocturnal. Sometimes explicit, sometimes implicit, but always present. The guild might not always frame itself as a religious organization, but it operates in Nocturnal's domain, follows her principles, benefits from her favor. The thieves might not always worship her consciously, but they worship her through their actions. The guild has faced existential threats repeatedly. The Kamana Tong nearly destroyed it in Morrowind. Mercer Frey's betrayal nearly ended it in Skyrim. The Oblivion Crisis and subsequent Empire collapse must have severely disrupted operations. Yet each time, the guild recovered, rebuilt, adapted, survived. This resilience comes from decentralization. The Thieves Guild isn't one organization with branches. It's more like a franchise where each regional chapter operates semi-independently while adhering to common principles. If the Cyrodiil chapter gets destroyed, the Skyrim chapter continues. If Skyrim falls, Hammerfell endures. No single blow can eliminate the entire guild because there's no single headquarters, no central leadership, no one point of failure. The disadvantage of decentralization is lack of coordination. The Grey Fox in Cyrodiil probably didn't know much about what Jim Stacy was doing in Morrowind. Zara in Abar's Landing operated independently of whatever Thieves Guild existed elsewhere in Tamriel during the Second Era. Each guildmaster runs their territory as they see fit. But the advantage is massive: institutional immortality. The Thieves Guild, as a concept, as a philosophy, as a tradition, cannot be destroyed. You can eliminate individual chapters, kill specific guild masters, burn down headquarters. But the idea survives. Someone, somewhere, will rebuild, will remember the 3 rules, will carve shadow marks on walls, will swear oaths to Nocturnal, and the guild will return. Consider the knowledge transmission. How does the guild maintain continuity across centuries when individual members live perhaps 50 years at most? Through apprenticeship. Master thieves train promising students, passing down techniques that might be hundreds of years old. A pickpocketing method developed in the Second Era gets taught to a Third Era apprentice, who teaches it to a Fourth Era student. The chain remains unbroken. Written records help, though they're risky. Gallus kept a journal documenting Mercer's betrayal. Various guildmasters have written instructions, guidelines, historical accounts, but written records can be stolen, burned, lost. The real continuity comes through oral tradition, through master and apprentice relationships, through the culture itself being passed person to person, like a treasured heirloom. The guild also benefits from mythology. The story of the Grey Fox becomes legendary, inspiring new generations of thieves. The tale of Zira's war against the Iron Wheel spreads beyond Hammerfell. Jim Stacy's recreation of the Baal Malagma becomes part of guild lore. These stories do more than entertain. They teach, they illustrate principles, they show how the guild should operate, how challenges should be overcome, how loyalty and skill triumph over adversity. New members joining the guild aren't just learning techniques, they're being initiated into a tradition, becoming part of a story that stretches back centuries. That matters. It creates identity. It transforms a collection of individual criminals into a brotherhood, an organization with history and purpose and meaning. The guild's relationship with law enforcement has remained remarkably consistent. Guards are obstacles to be avoided or bribed, not enemies to be killed. The guild recognizes that maintaining order benefits everyone, including criminals. A stable society is easier to steal from than a chaotic one. Guards who can be predicted, bribed, and evaded are preferable to armed mobs dispensing vigilante justice. This is why the guild doesn't wage war on governments. They might rob government officials, infiltrate government buildings, steal government documents, but they don't try to overthrow rulers or destabilize provinces. That would be counterproductive. Chaos is bad for business. The guild thrives in stable societies with predictable laws and corruptible officials. The relationship with other criminal organizations is more complex. The guild generally avoids direct conflict with groups like the Dark Brotherhood because both benefit from peaceful coexistence. But rival thieves' organizations, those must be eliminated. The wharf rats in the Iliac Bay were destroyed because they threatened the guild's monopoly. The Kamona Tong had to be fought in Morrowind because they wouldn't allow competition. This reveals something important about the guild's nature. It's not anarchist. The guild believes in order, just not the order that law-abiding society prefers. They want regulated crime, organized theft, structured underworld. They're conservatives, in a sense, seeking to preserve a particular way of life against both legal authorities and rival criminals who might disrupt it. The economic impact of the Thieves Guild is difficult to measure, but certainly substantial. Stolen goods flowing through fence networks represent significant wealth transfer. The guild employs hundreds or thousands of people across Tamriel, from actual thieves to fences to information brokers to safe house operators. It's an entire shadow economy operating parallel to legitimate commerce. And like legitimate businesses, the guild must adapt to economic conditions. During prosperous times, there's more to steal and more customers for fenced goods. During economic downturns, desperation drives membership up as people turn to crime for survival. The guild must manage these fluctuations, maintaining standards, even when desperate recruits flood in seeking easy money. The quality control problem is real. Not everyone can be a skilled thief. Some lack natural aptitude, others lack discipline. The guild must filter applicants, testing them, training those with potential, and discarding those without. This is partly about maintaining excellence and partly about security. A bumbling thief who gets caught and talks to guards can bring down an entire chapter. That's why betrayal is punished so severely. It's not just about personal offense or broken trust. It's about organizational survival. One informant can destroy decades of careful work, can get dozens of thieves arrested or killed, can shatter a network that took years to build. Blood price isn't cruelty, it's deterrence. It sends a message. Loyalty is rewarded. Betrayal means death, and there are no exceptions. The guild's relationship with its members is paternalistic in the best sense. The organization provides training, equipment, jobs, protection, and a sense of belonging. In return, members provide service, follow rules, and maintain the guild's reputation. It's a social contract, informal but binding. The guild takes care of its own, and its own take care of the guild. This creates loyalty that goes beyond simple self-interest. Guild members will risk their lives for each other, not because they're required to, but because the guild is family. In a world where many thieves come from broken homes, poverty, and social rejection, the guild provides community, purpose, identity. You're not just a criminal. You're a member of an ancient organization with proud traditions. That matters. The geographic spread of the guild is impressive. We have confirmed presence in Hammerfell, High Rock, Cyrodiil, Morrowind, and Skyrim. That's 5 of Tamriel's 9 provinces. The guild likely operates in others as well. Blackmarsh's Thieves Guild probably exists, but remains mysterious because everything in Blackmarsh remains mysterious to outsiders. Elsewhere, home of the Khajiit, who practically invented thievery as an art form, surely has guild presence. Valenwood, maybe. Somerset Isles, less likely given the Altmer's authoritarian government and social rigidity. Each regional chapter faces unique challenges. Desert environments require different techniques than frozen tundra. Cities built vertically demand different skills than cities built horizontally. Cultures with strong community bonds make theft harder than individualistic societies. The guild must adapt to these variations while maintaining core identity. Technology changes too. Locks become more sophisticated. Security improves. Magic gets used for protection. The guild must constantly innovate, developing new techniques to bypass new obstacles. This is where the master-apprentice system shines. Veterans teach traditional methods, then students improve on them, creating innovations that get passed to the next generation. The magical dimension of thievery has evolved significantly. In earlier eras, thieves relied primarily on mundane skills. By the Fourth Era, invisibility spells, muffle enchantments, and other magical techniques have become standard tools. The guild must recruit mages, or at least members with magical aptitude, to remain competitive. This creates tension. Traditional thieves sometimes resent magic users, seeing them as taking shortcuts. Magic users sometimes look down on mundane thieves as primitive. Good guild masters manage these tensions, emphasizing that both approaches have value, that the guild needs diversity of skills to handle diverse challenges. The guild's impact on culture is subtle but real. Thieves appear in stories and songs, sometimes as villains, but often as anti-heroes. The Grey Fox became a folk hero in Cyrodiil, a trickster figure who outwitted authorities and stole from the corrupt. The Baal Molechmer in Morrowind were celebrated as champions of justice. These cultural representations help the guild by making thieves seem less threatening, more sympathetic, even admirable. And the guild encourages these stories. Anonymous tips to bards about particularly clever heists. Rumors spread about legendary thieves who retired wealthy. Tales of the guild protecting common folk from worse criminals. Its public relations, medieval style, shape the narrative and you shape public opinion. Looking at the guild's evolution across eras reveals patterns. During stable periods, the guild grows sophisticated, establishes permanent infrastructure, accumulates wealth and influence. During chaotic periods, the guild becomes scrappy, focuses on survival, loses sophistication, but maintains core competence. The transition from Third Era to Fourth Era exemplifies this. The Oblivion Crisis devastated Cyrodiil. The Empire collapsed. Order broke down. The guild likely suffered massive losses. Infrastructure destroyed. Members killed. Leadership eliminated. The chapters that survived were those that could adapt quickly to chaos, that could operate with minimal resources, that could rebuild from almost nothing. Skyrim's Thieves Guild in the Fourth Era shows what happens after such devastation. They're tough, resilient, scarred by survival. They've lost the sophistication of earlier eras, but retained essential skills. They're rebuilding slowly, carefully, learning from past mistakes. In another century or two, assuming they continue recovering, they might achieve the sophistication of the Iliac Bay Guild at its height, or they might not. The Fourth Era is different from previous eras. The Empire is weak. The provinces are independent or close to it. Old certainties have dissolved. New powers are rising. Dragons have returned to Skyrim for Sithis' sake. The world is changing in fundamental ways, and the guild must change with it or become irrelevant. But if history teaches anything, it's that the Thieves Guild excels at adaptation. They've survived the fall of the Second Empire, the Oblivion Crisis, countless wars and plagues and disasters. They've adapted to every culture they've encountered, from Redguard merchants to Dunmer xenophobes to Nordic warriors. They've evolved from simple criminal bands into sophisticated organizations with divine patronage. Whatever the Fourth Era brings, whatever challenges the future holds, the Thieves Guild will likely survive, because they represent something fundamental about sentient nature. The desire to take what others have, to operate outside societal rules, to find freedom in shadow and secrecy. As long as there are laws, there will be lawbreakers. As long as there are locks, there will be lockpickers. As long as there is darkness, there will be thieves moving through it. And as long as there are thieves, Nocturnal will have worshippers. The Guild and the Daedric Prince are bound together now, their fates intertwined. The Guild serves Nocturnal's interests, spreading her influence. Nocturnal protects the Guild, granting luck and power. Its symbiosis, perfect and permanent. The Thieves Guild is more than just an organization. It's an idea, a tradition, a way of life. And ideas, once released into the world, cannot be destroyed. They spread, they evolve, they endure. The Thieves Guild, in one form or another, will exist as long as Tamriel itself exists. Maybe longer, because even after the world ends, even after reality itself dissolves, darkness will remain. And in that darkness, perhaps, thieves will still be plying their trade in whatever comes after. Chapter 9. The Price of Shadows. Consequences and Reflections. Let's talk about something the Guild doesn't advertise in recruitment speeches. The cost. Not the money you pay in fees, or the cut the Guild Master takes from your jobs. The real cost. What you give up when you choose to live in shadow. What you lose when you swear oaths to Nocturnal. The price that comes due when you dedicate your life to theft. First, there's the obvious. You're a criminal. That means you're hunted. Guards want to arrest you. Rival criminals want to eliminate you. Citizens want you gone. You can never fully relax, never completely let your guard down. Every knock on the door might be the guard come to drag you to jail. Every stranger might be an informant. Every friend might be a potential betrayer. The paranoia is justified. The Thieves Guild has enemies. Law enforcement, obviously, but also legitimate merchants whose profits you cut into, nobles whose treasures you steal, rival organizations competing for the same territory. Some of these enemies are content to use legal means against you. Others aren't. The Commoner Tong proved that in Morrowind. They didn't arrest guild members. They murdered them. Living under constant threat changes you, makes you suspicious, hard, unable to trust easily. Guild members develop personalities shaped by their profession, closed off, secretive, always watching for danger. It's necessary for survival, but it's also exhausting and lonely. The isolation is real. You can't tell people what you do for a living. I'm a thief doesn't make for good conversation at social gatherings. You can't share your work with family. Can't brag about your accomplishments to friends outside the guild. Your successes must remain secret because advertising them means arrest. So your social circle shrinks to other guild members. They're the only people who understand your life, the only ones you can be honest with. This creates strong bonds within the guild, but cuts you off from larger society. You become part of a subculture, a shadow world that operates parallel to normal life, but never quite intersects with it. Then there's the moral dimension. The guild maintains that theft isn't truly wrong, that stealing from the wealthy is actually a form of wealth redistribution, that they're providing a service by keeping security forces employed and insurance companies profitable. It's self-justification, obviously, but it helps members sleep at night. But stealing does hurt people. That priceless necklace you lifted, it was grandmother's heirloom, irreplaceable, worth more for sentimental reasons than monetary value. That document you forged, it destroyed someone's business, cost them everything they'd worked for. That house you robbed, The family feels violated, unsafe in their own home now. The guild's rules minimize harm. No killing means you're not leaving corpses. Not stealing from the poor means you're not taking from those who can't afford losses. But minimizing harm isn't the same as causing no harm. Even professional, rule-following theft has victims. And over a career of decades, those victims accumulate. Some thieves handle this by not thinking about it. The job is the job. You do what you do. Don't personalize it. Others rationalize, convincing themselves that victims deserve it somehow, that wealth inequality justifies theft. A few actually feel guilty and try to minimize harm, choosing targets carefully, returning items that turn out to have unexpected sentimental value. But the guilt is there, beneath the surface, even when suppressed. Humans have empathy. Elves have conscience. Even if you're stealing from terrible people, you're still violating their property, their security, their trust in the world's basic order. That weighs on you, whether you admit it or not. The physical risks are substantial too. Climbing walls in darkness means falling is always possible. Picking locks on trapped mechanisms means fingers lost or worse. Breaking into homes means encountering homeowners who might defend themselves violently. The guard might be ordered not to kill you, but they're happy to rough you up. And sometimes roughing up goes too far. Guild members bear scars, physical and psychological. Missing fingers from trap mechanisms. Broken bones from falls that didn't quite kill. Knife wounds from confrontations that went wrong. And mental scars. Nightmares about jobs gone bad. Paranoia about being followed. Anxiety about the next heist. The mortality rate is hard to calculate, but it's not good. Thieves die young, generally. Prison is common. Extended sentences mean years of life lost to confinement. Even successful thieves, those who survive long enough to retire, often end up disabled from accumulated injuries or paranoid from decades of looking over their shoulders. Then there's the Nightingale Oath, eternal service to Nocturnal after death. That's the price for power during life. Is it worth it? Depends on what you value. If you want extraordinary capability, if you are willing to trade eternity for excellence, then yes, but you're giving up whatever afterlife you might otherwise have had. Sovngarde for Nords, reunion with ancestors for Dunmer, whatever peaceful rest awaits normal souls. You forfeit that forever. And it's not symbolic, it's literal. When you die as a nightingale, your soul goes to the Evergloam. You serve Nocturnal there as you served her in Mundus. You don't get rest, you don't get peace. You continue working eternally for a Daedric prince whose idea of kindness is granting you the privilege of serving her forever. Some consider it an honor. Others see it as damnation dressed in black leather. The truth is probably somewhere between. Nocturnal doesn't torture her servants. The Evergloam isn't described as torment, but it's also not freedom. You're bound eternally to service. That's the price. Regular guild members, those who aren't nightingales, face different afterlife complications. If you've spent your life serving Nocturnal through thievery, even unconsciously, does your soul belong to her? Or do you go to wherever your race's souls typically go? The law is unclear, but it's something to think about when you're picking your 100th lock by moonlight. The skeleton Key's curse illustrates another price: identity. Corvus Umbranox lost himself wearing the grey cowl. For 3 centuries, every grey fox sacrificed their identity for power and anonymity. You could argue the breaking of the curse fixed this, but the fundamental trade remains. Anonymity means invisibility, which means no one remembers you, which means you effectively don't exist when you're not actively present. Even regular thieves experience this to lesser degree. You can't build a reputation in normal society, can't be known for your skills except within the guild, can't receive public recognition for your accomplishments. Everything you do must remain secret. It's like living life in invisible ink, technically there, but no one can read it. The financial situation is complicated too. Yes, successful thieves can make substantial money. A good heist might net you more gold than a craftsman makes in years. But that gold can't be spent openly, can't buy a manor house without raising questions about where the money came from, can't invest in legitimate businesses without risking investigation. Your wealth must remain as hidden as your profession. Fences take cuts. The guildmaster takes cuts. Bribes must be paid. Safe houses must be maintained. Equipment must be purchased. Informants must be compensated. By the time everyone takes their share, your fabulous heist might leave you with enough to live comfortably, but not luxuriously. And that's if the job succeeds. Failed heists mean wasted time, sometimes injury, occasionally jail. Compare this to legitimate professions. A skilled craftsman earns steady income, builds a business, gains respect in the community, retires with honor. A merchant accumulates wealth openly, passes it to children, builds a legacy. What does a thief build? A reputation within a criminal organization that can't be advertised, wealth that must be hidden, skills that can't be taught to anyone outside the guild. There's also the question of aging. Thievery is a young person's profession. Climbing walls requires strength and agility. Breaking into buildings requires stamina. Outrunning guards requires speed. All of these decline with age. What happens when you're 50, 60, 70? When your joints ache and your eyesight dims and your hands shake? Some thieves retire, live on accumulated wealth, fade into quiet obscurity. Others move into support roles, becoming fencers, trainers, information brokers. The lucky ones become guild masters, using experience to lead rather than manual skill to execute. The unlucky ones keep working until they fail, until they get caught, until they die on a job that they would have handled easily 20 years earlier. The guild provides for retired members when possible, but resources are limited. Not every thief can retire comfortably. Some end up destitute, too old to work but without savings, abandoned by an organization that values current contributors over past heroes. It's a grim fate, spending your youth risking everything for the guild, then ending up forgotten and poor in your final years. Relationships are difficult. How do you maintain a marriage when you can't tell your spouse what you do? When you disappear at night on business, you can't explain. When you come home injured from accidents, you can't describe. Some thieves marry other thieves, which solves the honesty problem but creates new ones. If both partners are criminals, both are at risk. Both might get arrested. Children might be orphaned. Children are particularly complicated. Do you raise them in the guild tradition, teaching them to steal, perpetuating the lifestyle? Or do you try to give them legitimate lives, which means hiding your profession from them, lying to them constantly? Either choice has moral weight. Either choice involves sacrifice. The guild itself is immoral on this question. Some guild masters encourage members to have children, seeing them as future recruits. Others discourage it, seeing families as vulnerabilities that enemies can exploit. Individual thieves make individual choices, but there's no good answer. Bring children into the life, and you're condemning them to its risks. Keep children separate, and you're lying to them and yourself. The psychological toll accumulates over years. Constant stress, perpetual fear of arrest, the guilt of your actions, the isolation from normal society, the violence you witness or commit. Many long-term thieves develop problems: alcoholism, addiction, depression, anxiety disorders. The guild has limited resources for mental health. You cope or you don't. Many don't. Some thieves turn to religion, seeking meaning in devotion to the 9 divines or Daedric princes. But most gods don't smile on thieves. Zenithar, god of commerce, certainly doesn't approve. Stendar, god of mercy, might understand, but doesn't endorse. Only Nocturnal actively welcomes thieves, and serving her comes with prices we've already discussed. There's a romanticization of thief life in popular culture. Songs and stories make it seem adventurous, exciting, noble even. The reality is grimmer. It's a hard life that breaks most people who try it. The successful ones, the ones who become legendary, are exceptions. Most thieves live short, difficult lives and die unmourned, except by fellow guild members who will forget them within a generation. And yet, people keep joining, keep choosing this life despite its costs. Why? For some, it's necessity. They're desperate, poor, without legitimate options. The guild provides survival when nothing else will. For others, it's aptitude. They have natural talent for theft and figure they might as well profit from it. For still others, it's rebellion. Society's rules feel arbitrary and oppressive, and thievery is a way of rejecting those rules, asserting individual freedom against collective authority. And for a few, a small minority, it's calling. They're born to be thieves. The thrill of breaking into forbidden places, the satisfaction of solving security-like puzzles, the pure joy of taking something that everyone said was protected and untakeable. These are the ones who become legendary, the ones who rise to master thief, who pull off impossible heists, who define what the profession can be. But even they pay prices. Even the greatest thieves sacrifice parts of themselves, live diminished lives in some ways, accept costs that normal people wouldn't tolerate. The question each thief must answer is, are the rewards worth the costs? Is the freedom worth the isolation? Is the excitement worth the danger? Is the power worth the price? There's no universal answer. For some, absolutely yes. For others, definitely no. For most, it's complicated. They regret some choices while treasuring others. They wish they could change aspects of their lives while remaining fiercely loyal to the guild. They're neither purely happy nor purely miserable, but something more complex, satisfied with their choices while acknowledging what those choices cost. The Thieves Guild survives because enough people answer yes, because enough individuals decide that despite everything, despite all the costs and dangers and sacrifices, this life is worth living. That walking in shadow, serving nocturnal, stealing from those who seem to have too much, that matters, that means something, that's worth the price. And so the guild endures, generation after generation, era after era, carrying forward traditions paid for in blood and sacrifice and countless small sorrows, maintaining an institution that demands everything from its members while giving back just enough to make the cost seem bearable. In the end, every thief makes a trade. Normal life for extraordinary life. Security for freedom. Social acceptance for guild brotherhood. The future for the present. And once that trade is made, once you've carved your first shadow mark, once you've sworn the oath, there's no going back. You're marked. You're changed. You're one of Nocturnal's children, walking forever in darkness, paying prices you understood and prices you didn't, living a life that society will never acknowledge and history will never record. But you'll know, the guild will remember. And in the Evergloam, Nocturnal watches, always watches, seeing every theft, every triumph, every sacrifice, collecting her due, granting her favors, maintaining the eternal balance between shadow and light, between law and chaos, between the world that is and the world that could be. The price of shadows is high, but for those who choose to pay it, the rewards can be extraordinary. The question isn't whether the price is worth paying. The question is whether you're willing to find out. So close your eyes one last time, dreamer. Let me paint you a final picture. It's midnight in some city, somewhere in Tamriel. Could be Abba's Landing in the Second Era. Could be Riften in the Fourth. Doesn't matter. Time is fluid in stories like these. The city sleeps mostly. Honest folk in their beds, guards on their patrols, the world turning as it always does. But in the darkness, something moves. A figure dressed in leather, the color of midnight, moving along a rooftop with steps so light they don't disturb the sleeping pigeons. Approaching a window that's supposed to be locked, secured, protected, producing lockpicks that gleam silver in the moonlight, working the mechanism with hands that know their craft intimately, perfectly. Click. The lock opens, the window swings wide, and the thief slips inside, disappearing into shadow like they were never there at all, like they're part of the darkness itself. In the room below, perhaps someone stirs in sleep. Perhaps they sense something wrong, some disturbance in the air. But when they look around, they see nothing. The shadows are just shadows. The darkness is just darkness. And they return to sleep, never knowing that history just walked through their bedroom, that legend just picked their lock, the Nocturnal's agent just passed within arm's reach. By dawn, something will be missing. A document, a necklace, a key, something that was there and now isn't, and no one will quite understand how it was taken. The guards will investigate, question witnesses, search for clues. They'll find nothing, because the Thieves Guild leaves no traces except the ones they choose to leave. A shadow mark, perhaps, carved on a doorframe where only other thieves will notice. A small diamond shape saying, "We were here. We did this. The shadows are ours." This is the Thieves Guild's legacy, not the treasures they've stolen or the heists they've pulled off, though those are impressive. Not the legendary names like the Grey Fox or Gentleman Jim Stacy, though those names deserve remembrance. The legacy is simpler and more profound. They proved that darkness is eternal, that shadows cannot be eliminated, that no matter how many guards patrol, how many lock secure doors, how many laws prohibit theft, people will still steal, and some of them will be very, very good at it. From the Second Era, founding in Abba's Landing, to the Fourth Era restoration in Skyrim, across provinces and cultures and centuries, the Thieves Guild has endured. They've adapted to every challenge, survived every threat, evolved with changing times while maintaining core principles. They've become an institution as permanent as any government, as influential as any church, as respected within their sphere as any legitimate organization. They've shown that criminal enterprises can be professional, that thieves can have honor, that operating outside the law doesn't mean operating without principles. The 3 rules originated by Nicholas in Alba's Landing have spread across Tamriel, defining what it means to be a proper thief rather than just a common criminal. They've demonstrated the power of organization. Lone thieves can steal purses. Organized guilds can steal kingdoms worth of treasure. Coordination multiplies effectiveness. Shared resources and knowledge make each member stronger. The whole becomes vastly greater than the sum of its parts. They've maintained a relationship with Nocturnal that benefits both parties. The Daedric Prince gains countless agents, spreading her influence across the mortal world. The thieves gain luck, power, and divine favor. It's symbiosis, perfect in its mutual advantage. Neither could achieve their goals as effectively alone. They've created culture, shadow marks as a language, rankings as achievement systems, traditions passed master to apprentice across generations, stories and legends that inspire new members. The Thieves Guild isn't just an organization. It's a subculture, a way of life, a tradition that members belong to with pride despite society's disapproval. They've provided opportunity for those without other options, orphans and outcasts, the desperate and the dispossessed, those whom society has failed or forgotten. The guild takes them in, trains them, gives them purpose and community, not from charity, but pragmatically. The guild needs members, and talent comes from unexpected places. They've challenged authority without overthrowing it. Every successful heist is a statement. Your security isn't perfect. Your power has limits. You cannot protect everything. The guild reminds rulers and citizens alike that order is fragile, that chaos lurks in every shadow, that the world is more dangerous and uncertain than comfortable people want to believe. And they've created legends. The Grey Fox operating for 300 years, Zera rebuilding her guild from ashes, Jim Stacy fighting the Kamonatong, the Nightingales guarding the Twilight Sepulchre. These aren't just stories. They're proof that extraordinary things can be achieved by those willing to live in shadow, to pay the prices that shadow demands. The future of the Thieves Guild is uncertain, as futures always are. The Fourth Era is a time of tremendous change. Dragons have returned. The Empire is collapsing. New powers are rising. Old certainties have crumbled. The world is being remade, and no one knows what shape it will take when the remaking is done. But if history teaches anything, it's that the Guild will adapt. They always do. They'll find ways to operate in whatever new world emerges. They'll establish relationships with new powers. They'll develop techniques for new challenges. They'll maintain their traditions while evolving to meet changing circumstances. Because thieves are like shadows. You can't eliminate them. You can add more light, certainly, more guards, better locks, harsher punishments. But you can't remove shadows entirely. As long as there's light, there's shadow. As long as there's law, there's law breaking. As long as people have things worth protecting, other people will try to take them. And among those other people, some will be professionals, artists of theft, masters of shadow, members of the Thieves Guild, carrying forward traditions that stretch back to the Second Era and perhaps beyond, carving shadow marks on walls in cities that haven't been built yet, swearing oaths to Nocturnal in languages that haven't been invented. picking locks using techniques that haven't been discovered. The guild is eternal because the impulse it represents is eternal. The desire to take what others have, the need to prove yourself against obstacles and challenges, the joy of outsmarting security and authority. These are fundamental parts of sentient nature. They cannot be educated away or punished away or wished away. They simply are, and Nocturnal watches over it all. The Daedric prince of night and shadow, the Urdra, who existed before creation and will exist after ending. She guides her thieves, grants them power, collects their souls in the Evergloam. She is the darkness that thieves work in, the shadow that conceals them, the luck that favors their efforts. Without her, the guild would still exist, but with her, it transcends simple criminality and becomes something approaching sacred. So remember, dreamer, when you walk through cities at midnight, when you pass locked doors and shuttered windows, when you move through darkness, you're not alone. The shadows hold secrets, the darkness hides watchers, and somewhere nearby, perhaps closer than you'd think, a thief is working, picking a lock, climbing a wall, slipping through spaces that shouldn't allow passage. They're part of a tradition older than empires, members of an organization that has survived longer than dynasties, servants of a Daedric prince who will exist when reality itself has crumbled. They are the Thieves Guild, and they will endure because shadows are eternal, and those who walk in shadow are eternal with them. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight through the dark history of the Thieves Guild, through centuries of theft and betrayal and triumph. If you enjoyed this journey into shadow, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Elder Scrolls lore. There are so many more stories to tell, so many more shadows to explore. Until next time, watch your purse in crowded markets, check your locks at night, and remember, if you find a shadow mark carved on your doorframe, perhaps you should take it as the warning it is. The guild is watching, the shadows are listening, and Nocturnal remembers everything. Sweet dreams, dreamer. May the darkness be gentle with you tonight.